Hello, my name is Sarah Polly, and my semester project is on web archives. So, web content is rapidly changing. That's through revisions and updates. Sometimes posts are deleted, sometimes entire accounts are deleted, sometimes websites become defunct. So, web archives are a way to preserve content. That's important for current researchers who want to go back and cite information that they found earlier. It's important for individuals and communities to preserve resources that are important to them. And most especially, it's important for future historians. So today's historians can look back in the past and analyze artifacts such as written documents and tapestries. Well, future historians, the artifacts they will look at will be mostly web-based resources, which is why it's so important that we preserve this rapidly changing content for posterity. So, an important thing to know when starting or exploring the idea of web archives is that no single institution can save the entire internet. That's why there's a need for collaboration. So many institutions having focused collections is the best way to preserve as much online content as possible. So there are three different primary types of collections. One is domain-centric. That's mostly where you search everything with an entire domain, such as all the .gov websites. Sometimes it's at the national level, like everything that's .uk. That's mostly done by large national archives. Most institutions other than national archives are going to use topic-centric and event-centric collections. If you look on archiveit.org, you can search many collections created by many different institutions, and many of those are event-centric, focused around congressional election cycles or hurricanes or protest movements. When curating a web archive, most institutions use an automated process. So they start with seed websites. That's a list of websites that's relevant to your topic or event, and then use web crawlers, which is an automated program to follow and capture those links. So it starts at the seed website and then branches off into any links that are included on that website. So crawlers can preserve both static and dynamic elements. Static elements of a website include the text, videos, pictures. Dynamic elements, many authors argue, are especially important to include. That's the layout of a web page, the links, the interactive features. Some crawlers and platforms struggle to properly capture and preserve dynamic elements, so institutions have to make a trade-off between preserving some and perfection. Then, although there are these automated processes, there is, of course, a human element to curation. Humans have to conduct quality control to make sure programs capture the content that you want to capture. And then people have to evaluate the processes. And that's an ongoing job to make sure everything is efficient as possible and that you're staying within the scope of the intended collection. Here are a few sample collections, examples of small web archives. One of the early ones, which was created by Internet Archive, is Understanding 9/11, a television news archive. More recently, there's Documenting Ferguson, and this screenshot here shows many of the current COVID-19 related projects. Many institutions are developing web archives capturing how COVID-19 affects so many different facets of society. Some of those use social media, news websites, health websites. It's very interdisciplinary. So there are challenges with this technology. One is simply access and usability. So far in the literature, there's relatively little focus on access and end users. The focus tends to be on how to collect the data, not on how to share it with the intended audience. So there does need to be work on training people to access archives. Then, of course, there are concerns with copyright law and privacy. That's especially a concern when social media content is being crawled and harvested for a collection. One author mentioned that activist accounts have been used to conduct surveillance, so clearly we don't want to participate in individuals being harassed. So here are a few useful websites for learning more. These are mostly overall examples of collections, such as the Internet Archive resources. The Pittman article, Why Archive the Web, provides a very useful overview of why an institution should create a web archive and how to go about doing that. And it's written in terms that are easy to understand for the layperson. It doesn't have a lot of technological jargon. The Seen But Not Heard article by Freeman provides an interesting example of using web archives in the classroom, and that could be applied to a public library setting as well, because it's about participatory archives. And I've included the Speaker and Moffat article simply to show the process of collecting resources in the moment, of the immediate response that's needed to fully preserve web content as it's coming out. So hopefully you learned a little about web archives, and let me know if you have any questions.